So Unit 3 in anatomy is going to begin with the anatomical position for activity 1. I know many of you have been waiting for the anatomy piece. This is something that, or one of the reasons why many of you signed up for the course was you wanted to get into this type of information. It is different than the first two sections of the course, or the first two units, being that with the history and the sociology of sport, oftentimes you got to express sort of things about you, your opinions on those things, what your thoughts were. Now it becomes pretty cut and dry. It's almost a bit like memorization now, in the sense that you have to use the proper terminology and the proper words for describing things with the body. So it's a little bit different than the previous two units, which is okay. It's always good to change things up. Activity 1 is going to be going through and getting to think about movements and how could you describe and explain different types of movements. So it goes through and provides you information about the idea of dissecting or cutting things up into different planes in this case. And then having different terminology to then allow you to reference things so that it's common for anything you're discussing related to movements, so that when people hear it, they know exactly what you're talking about. You'll look a bit about the history of Gray's Anatomy, cadavers, how we came up with things. This little interactive will go through the anatomical position, the correct position, called the poor position, and give you some information as to why one was correct, one was not. Using correct terminology, in this case, it gives you different words that you have to use to describe what's happening again, so that it's quite clear to people what's going on. Some great little interactives in here to allow you to practice and get those, so that you have those memorized, so that you're quite familiar with those terminologies and how they work. Again, terminology related to movement, especially when you're talking about flexion and extension. Sometimes those can be confusing. Usually what happens with extension is that the angle is becoming larger, with flexion the angle is becoming smaller. Again, abduction, adduction, all these different types of terms and things that express and talk about how the body moves is what you'll be taking a look at in this activity. And again, different than the previous activities where you basically were writing paragraphs or completing some written assignments. This one at the very end is going to actually end with an anatomical terminology quiz. So you'll access that quiz and complete that in order to complete this activity.